All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Michelle Cummings with Training Wheels, and today we're going to discuss and talk about more virtual team building activities. This is the part 2 session. Last week I led a session on virtual team building activities, and we had thousands of people register for that as well. And if you're looking for a handout for this, open up your chat box right now and look for the link to the handouts, and you can get the handouts from both last week as well as today's session. Just throw your name and your email address in there and it'll automatically download to your device. So today this session will be about an hour in length, and we're gonna get through probably 7 or 8 different activities in that time frame. So if you tuned in last week, I kind of went through things really quickly, and I got through about 25 or 30 activities last week, but we also went for about an hour and a half, if not a little bit longer. So today we're gonna cap this at an hour, go through 7 or 8 activities, and these are a lot more in-depth activities. The icebreakers aren't, but the problem-solving activities are. And so we're gonna go through them. I've done a lot of back-end research and figured out how to do some things since you last tuned in. So that way I would have new stuff to show you, new websites, new tools, and new techniques for you to try out and use with your virtual audiences. So again, I'm Michelle Cummings. I own and operate Training Wheels. Training Wheels is a portable team building company. And I started Training Wheels 21 years ago when I couldn't find a job that I liked, so I made one up. So I thought, I'm pretty good at making up games. Maybe I'll make up a job and maybe it'll work for me. So I chose the name Training Wheels for my company because I love the metaphor of the training wheel and how, for those of us that use training wheels when we were learning how to ride a bike, it really is only there for a short period of time until you get that confidence and that courage to take that training wheel off and to try on that new skill. And the first time you try it on your own, you're a little bit wobbly, but eventually you get your balance and your stride, and then you just take off and ride. So, and really that's at the core of all the work that I do is I'm usually only with people for a really short period of time, and then it's up to them to take what they've learned and own it. And so that's what the purpose of today's workshop is as well. You're going to see some tools here, and I hope that you take them, try them out, practice with them, get a couple other colleagues on a call and try out to see if you can get all the functions to work and all that. So really this virtual team building world, I will admit I hadn't done a lot of virtual team building with groups up until about 3-4 weeks ago when the COVID-19 virus started spreading around the world and kind of forced us all into our homes and trying to lead teams virtually. So up until 3 weeks ago, I had never led a Zoom meeting ever in my life, and now I've led them for thousands of people all around the world multiple times, and I'm actually feeling pretty confident about it now. So I'm sure glitchy things still happen, whatnot, and I still have a lot to learn. But just with a little bit of practice, you can do this too, because I seriously had not done this until about 3 weeks ago. So you just gotta have some patience, get some friends together, practice all the buttons and things like that, and then roll with it. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my my screen so we can, so I have a PowerPoint deck that we're gonna walk through as well. And let's get started on more virtual team building activities. All right, here we go. All right, so today we're going to walk through more virtual team building activities. So if you're just joining us and logging in, follow the document in the link in the chat box. So locate your chat box. It's in your Zoom menu bar, and feel free to click on that link and download the handout now so you can follow along with everybody while we're doing this presentation. And then if you have specific questions, you can put them in the chat box. I can't promise I'm going to get to all of them during the presentation with so many people joining us, but I do go back and look at them later, and I can reach out privately here and there. And then also, I'm going to hang out a little bit after the session, so that way if you have a little time in your schedule to hang out afterwards, I can answer more specific questions then. All right, if you hover over the gallery view right now, and if you hover over my face in the screen, there's a little the three dots. If you pull down on that, you can pin my video. And if you do that, then you can, it keeps my video kind of up in your window, so that way you can still see me in the small version while I've got the PowerPoint open as well. So, and then if you want, I highly recommend that you also view this presentation in split screen, meaning you have your internet browser open on half of your computer screen so that you can see my slides. And then if you want, feel free to open up like a blank Microsoft Word document or anything like that, to where if you see a slide or something that you like, feel free to print screen and do a screenshot of whatever you're seeing. Go over and cut and paste it into that document, and then you can save it and go back and look at it later if you want to. So please feel free to do that. And then you can also have your handout in the other window as well if you want to. So we are recording this session. We will post a link out on our YouTube channel, as well as I'll send you a link directly just by registering for this class as well. We're going to get through as many games as possible. I've got 7 or 8 planned, so 60-ish minutes. A few of them are more in depth, so they may take a little bit longer than 10 minutes. So we'll see how many we get through in 60-ish minutes. All right, so the goals of this session is just to show you what's possible. Some new things that I've kind of figured out how to do since our session last week, and to demonstrate these activities. This is not a full Zoom tutorial on how all the buttons work, although I did take some really good screenshots to share with everyone so that you can kind of see what it looks like. But Zoom actually has some really great tutorial videos themselves as well. So, and that's how I honestly learned how to navigate my way around Zoom, as well as I have a few colleagues that are pretty gifted in Zoom. They are Zoom masters, if you will, and they were very kind to donate their time to help me as well. So, and then also the link to the handout is also, we'll get you to last week's handout as well. All right, so quick annotation button orientation. So this is something that as a facilitator, I have learned to do, let people play with all the buttons at the very beginning of the presentation, because otherwise, when you then need to go and use them later, then they've already been onboarded, if you will. So what I want you to do is you're gonna look for this long green bar that says you're viewing Michelle Cummings' screen, and look for the view options button, and then click down and you're gonna find that annotate button. So, oh, is it not working? Let me go and make sure that there it goes. It looks like it's working now. Okay, so, and then if you want to, start scribbling all over that screen and just play with it a little bit. So, so that way, and then I also want you to practice clearing your drawings. So in that same annotation bar, go ahead and clear your drawings as well, because you need to know how to do both. So, so clear them, and particularly we're going to use the stamp button and the arrow button and different things like that. So go ahead and locate your clear button as well. And I also have some mad power on this end as the host, to where I can also clear all drawings and things like that. In a minute, I'm going to actually relinquish your power and take it away from you, because I learned how to do that this week, and I learned how to disable the participants annotation. So find your draw buttons and things like that, and just let people practice for a minute. I have found that this is helpful when going to navigate. Okay, so I'm going to disable your annotations for just a second, your ability to, and then we're going to go to the next screen here for a moment. Oh, it didn't work clearly. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my next screen. And now what I want you to do is I'm going to enable your annotations here again in a moment. But what I want you to do is when you find your annotation buttons, I want you just to put use the stamp button that has just the heart or the check mark or the star or something like that. And I just want you to pin your location of where you're viewing this presentation from. So I'm going to go ahead and give you control of your annotation buttons again, and look for the stamp button, and put a stamp as where you're viewing from right now. All right, a lot of people joining us in the US. We've got a few people from other places. Locate the stamp or the star button if you would. Those of you that are on the line drawings, see if you can locate the stamp or the star button. All right. Lots of people from all over. All right, so again, this is This is a way for you to let people play with it, kind of learn the system a little bit before you go into the uh, presentation, okay? And it's important to let people mess with the stuff, kind of at least learn where it is initially, and then you can take away their power to annotate. Otherwise, they keep scribbling all over all your slides, and then it can be distracting. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear all drawings, and then I'm going to take away the power to annotate as well. So that way, then when I need you to annotate again, I will come in and turn back the annotation. It will enable the participants' annotation again. All right, excellent. Okay, so now we're going to dive into some of the icebreaker activities. I've got 2 icebreaker activities, and the rest of them are all some problem-solving activities and things like that. So one that I've been playing around with this week is the Brady Bunch Gallery View icebreaker. Okay, so if you can view your put your screen in the gallery view. What you could do is, of course, the Brady Bunch, they were the ones that it looked like a Zoom meeting, Brady Bunch style, back in 1969, right? And so one thing I've been experimenting with is, as the host or as the facilitator, I would call out one person, because when I see my gallery view, I see specific people in my gallery view, but other people, and they're in a specific order, but other people see theirs in a very different order. It's very random how it all works out. And so, so one thing that I like doing is to figure out, you call out the name of somebody and say, and you point to that person. So wherever you see them in your gallery view, then you would point to if they're to the right or to the left or up or down or different things like that. So and then once everyone points to them, and then you all kind of turn and look at the screen, everyone's kind of pointing a different direction. So it's just kind of fun. It's more silly than anything, but it is still kind of fun. So then and this one, they're not really like getting to know people or anything like that, but what's fun about it is that then you can send people into breakout rooms, and then you can actually have them, and sending them in by groups of 9 is awesome, because then they can, play the Brady Bunch while they're in there. Okay, for some reason, there are still some people able to annotate. I don't know why, because I have disabled the annotation. So if you're playing with your annotation bar right now, leave it alone, if you would please, so it doesn't get onto the screens. All right, so so that's one activity, and it's just real simple, and I've used it just a handful of times. It's kind of fun to bring in the Bradys and to do just a fun quick point to where people are off to the left, off to the right, different things like that. All right, 6 count. So this is another activity that you can do that is kind of a brain teaser opener. And what I like about this one is that it gets people, gets their brains, the synapses firing between the left and right hemisphere of people's brains. When you're doing cross-body exercises, that happens in the brain. So what we're going to do, this one here, you need to make sure that you have enough room to move your arms up and down, and then also out to your sides. Okay, so I'm actually going to stand up and do this one as well with you. But basically, I'm going to count to 6, and then I'm going to put my right arm up and down. My left arm is going to go up to the side and out and down. And so I'm going to demonstrate this with you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now so that you can see me in larger view. And I'm going to actually tweak my webcam up just a little bit. So if you would like to join me in this activity, I invite you to step away from your computer just a little bit. I'm going to stand up to where you can see me in full view. And we're going to do the activity, what's called 6 count. Okay, so in the 6 count activity, you have to be able to count to 6. So it just goes like this. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So pretty simple. Okay, now next we're going to start adding some arm movements to it. Okay, so I'm going to start with my right hand. So if you want to start with your right hand as well, now it might be a mirrored, so I don't know, it might be difficult for you to do your right if you're watching me. So feel free to pick an arm that is going to look good in your view. That'll be the easiest for you. But with my right arm, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now that's the slow version of it. I'm going to pick it up a little bit faster, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Awesome. All right, now with my other hand, I'm going to do a similar 6 count, except for it's got 3 different motions to it. Instead of just up and down, it's going to be 1, and then straight out here to the side, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so let's pick that one up a little bit faster. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excellent, nicely done. Now, the true test is we're going to do both of them at the exact same time. Okay? All right, are you ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, how'd you do? I said a lot of wobbliness there. Some of you were with me, some of you were not with me. All right, let's try it one more time, okay? So usually everybody gets the first one, right? Because it's 1, right? And then 2 is gonna hurt your brain a little bit. 2, right? And then 3, and then 4 is just the opposite of 3. 4, and then 5, and back down 6. All right, let's try it one more time at the regular pace. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, nicely done, everyone. You can take your seats, and we'll pull back in here. All right. So 6 count is a great activity. This one is really fun if you get to, as soon as we're able to go and play in person with people again, that's a really great warm-up energizer. It also, from a brain point of view, I love what it does in the brain when you have your right hand and your left hand doing 2 different things at the same time. It wakes up those synapses between your right and your left hemisphere in your brain, and it really can open up your neural pathways, and it really can help people. So in a virtual environment where we're all sitting and staring at screens so much, this one is also a great one. Put it halfway through your presentation, because if we've been sitting for a long period of time, then it wakes the brain back up, and then we can focus again. So, and it's fun. And I know that everybody has people watching. You know, you might have children sitting right next to you right now. So this is also one where they can get up and they can do it with you. I've led a few already where people have had multiple family members join in as well, and it's kind of fun to have everybody joining as well. So, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again, so we can move into the next few activities. And here we go. All right. So, so with 6 count, you know, the real challenge of that one is doing it, both of them together. Now, for you, the facilitator, you have to be pretty proficient at that. So practice it several times before you go to do it. And for me, it's easy for me to focus on my right hand because it's just going up and down and up and down and up and down. So if one I know I just have to make go up and down, then you can actually kind of pay attention to the other one that has to do do the other action as well. That's how I do it, but you'll probably find your own strategy as well. All right, we're going to move into some virtual problem solving activities. I've had a lot of fun kind of tweaking and developing these. For those of you that are in the team building field that facilitate often, these are probably not going to be real new activities that you haven't seen before, but they're going to be really great tweaks so that you can see how you can do it in a virtual format as well. All right, so traffic jam is the one that we're going to do next. So traffic jam, when we get to do this live and in person with people, it's a big brain teaser puzzle, and this is a really high level challenging activity for groups to figure out when they're in person. So when we're doing them virtually, it's also going to be pretty challenging, but I have found a couple things that ways to tweak it to where we can make it work. But basically one person, each person needs one space or square. As you can see there in the picture, I use these plastic mats when I use these when I'm live and in person. And then you need one extra, so you need one blank spot as well. And so you divide your group in half. This is about 8 to 10 people is what maxes out on this activity. 8 is perfect in my opinion, but you can, you just need half the group on one side, half the group on the other side, and then they kind of turn and face the center. And so, so a person can move, so there's legal moves and illegal moves. And so what happens is a person can move into any space that's in front of him or her. And they can move around another person or a coin, which is how I do the tabletop version, that is going the opposite direction into an empty space. Okay. Now the illegal moves, things that you can't do, you can't go backwards and you can't move around a person that's going the same direction. And any move which involves two people moving at one time, you can't do either. And so if there's ever an infraction of any of these rules, then you must start all the way back over at the beginning. Okay, so now again, this is really, and the instructions, the full instructions for this are in the handout as well. So how I've kind of tweaked it and changed it a little bit for the virtual world is to use a desk space. So I have the ability to share a second device, and I use the Zoom platform just because it's the one that I learned first. And so, but you can share a second device using screen mirroring, and I'm going to show you how to do this here in a second. So, but you see here in this picture is that I use sticky notes for my spots. And then if you know the names of your participants, you could put them on just little pieces of paper. I also use avatars or coins of two different kinds of coins to represent where people would stand either. So the sticky notes become your spots. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment, and I'm going to show you. Actually, I'll show you this first, and then I'm going to share with you what my setup looks like. So how you share in the control panels or the host panels on Zoom, this is what it looks like. So when you hit your share screen button, this menu pops up. And so that shows you your screen. You can share a whiteboard. And here it shows I can share my iPhone or my iPad. So that's the one that I'm going to select. And when I do that, it's actually going to look for the other device that I have on the same Wi-Fi channel that my computer is on. So this is a picture of what my iPad stand looks like. And so I have an iPad Pro, so it has, this is a picture of it, and it's pointing down because I want to be able to show the top of my desk. So you have to be on the same Wi-Fi network that your computer's on. And what I do is I just open my camera app on my device, and I select screen mirroring on the device. And then it should locate Zoom because Zoom is trying to find your other device. And then as soon as you select share, it works. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing right now so I can actually pull my webcam off and show this to you. And then I'm actually going to share my device so that way you can see how it works. Okay. All right, so so with my webcam here, I'm going to snag it, and I'm just going to pull over to the side here a little bit so that you can see my device here. So this here, Cheryl's gonna, Cheryl Rodriguez, by the way, is my office manager, and she is the one that's putting all these links in the chat box as to where you can find this stuff. So this is what my iPad stand is. It's got a telescoping handle on it too, so I can make this go closer to my desk, further away. It's further away than it was last week on my presentation because I needed a little bit more desk space, but that's what it looks like. And I have found this to be such a valuable tool to use when I want to share my other device, because it just opens up so much more of my workspace, and people can see things. It's also, you're seeing a different perspective, and for your participants that can be really helpful because we get tired of staring at our screen and looking at people all the time and whatnot. So this is a way for it to be a little bit different perspective, and then I get to manipulate things right here on my desk, right over here, so that way it seems more interactive, even though people are still just staring at a screen. It just seems more interactive. So, all right, I'm going to now share my iPhone or my iPad, and I'm going to share with you what it looks like then. So now I'm going to pull over here to my device over here. I'm going to pull down on the upper right-hand corner. Now I use an iPhone or an iPad. So I'm going to, and with that device, you have to pull down from the upper right-hand screen, and that's where you find your screen mirroring. So as soon as it locates it here, it's going to, let's see, what's it doing right now? It is trying to find it. All right, let's see here. Oh, yep, there it is. Okay, so Zoom is finding it. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is now you're seeing my iPad. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to select my camera option, And as soon as I do that, it now opens up my desk. Okay, so now you can see here on my desk, I've got all my sticky notes here that represent my spots, and then I have all my names of all my participants here as well. And so now, if I wanted to, I'm not going to do this right now, but if I wanted to let people annotate, then they could tell me where they're like, okay, if people used the arrow button, somebody could click on their name and show me where they would want me to move it to. And so it's a way that you could make it more interactive. So then I can be the one that kind of, I'm not moving them, I'm moving them for them, but I'm not making the decisions for them. So, and again, they would just have to follow all the rules. And then as soon as somebody would make a mistake, then you would have to start all the way back over. Now, I also have a guide printed here, so that way I know who is supposed to be in what spot at the very beginning. So that way, when you have to start over, you're like, oh my gosh, who was where and things like that. So this is a great way to make sure you've got your master list and things like that. So, so anyway, and then I put little arrows so that I know which direction people are supposed to be going as well. So this is how you would do it if you were doing it in a, with the sticky notes and things like that. Now, if you wanted to do it a little bit differently, you can also you could put coins. Now, of course, in the United States, we've got pennies and quarters. If you're watching this from a different country, you can use whatever coins you have available to you as well. And then again, these then wouldn't be necessarily assigned to specific people. You could have people take turns. I'm like, all right, move this quarter here, over here, and then around, and things like that. Or you could also, instead of using coins and things like that, you could also use avatars and let people select which person or which thing that they would like to be. And that opens it up into a little bit more fun. And then you can just use little things like that. So raid that junk drawer that I know you have somewhere in your house and start looking at what you could use to make something like this seem a little bit more interactive and let people play with it a little bit. All right, so that is the traffic jam activity. Now the solution for this is in your handout, and this is again, this is a high level brain teaser kind of puzzle, and it's frustrating for people to do this when they're able to be in person and they can brainstorm and talk, and they can still talk in this virtual format, but it's a frustrating puzzle. So just know that if people get to a frustration level with this, it's also one that because people have all of these props and things like that, probably in their homes, just tell them, you can even table it for today's meeting. And let's say maybe you want to, if you're meeting up with the same team again next week or tomorrow or something like that, say, you know what, let's go ahead and table this for right now. Let's pull it back and next week we'll do it again. In the meantime, get out some sticky notes and some pennies and quarters or paper clips or pieces of macaroni or whatever it is that you have in your house and as your different pieces, and see if you can figure out what the puzzle is there. So, so that's a great way to do a pretty high level activity with your people in a way that is it's a pretty decent problem solving activity. So, all right, so that's traffic jam. It's a goodie. I love that one. It's a difficult problem, but it's a good one. All right, you could also utilize your whiteboard function to create this online if you want. This one here does require you to create it in the moment, and I can show you how to do that really fast. But so what I'm going to do next is I'll share my screen and select the Whiteboard app, and then I'll share with you what specific annotation bar you need to use in order to make this happen. So once you open up your whiteboard function, you're gonna need to draw boxes in the different colors to represent your sticky notes. And this is your color bar here. So you can change the colors to all these different colors here. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna need to use the text box function, which is this one here, to type the names of the people. And then once you type the names of the people, you use the select bar to click on them, and then you can move them into place. Okay, so so I'm going to actually do this now, and the solution for this is in the handout. All right, so let me stop sharing this, and then I'm going to actually go and share my whiteboard so that you can see what this looks like. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this function right here in the square, and first you have to make your sticky notes. Okay, so again, you do have to create this one in the moment, which for some people, they're like, I don't want to do that. I don't have time to do that. But this is, again, this is just, I'm showing you what's possible. So then I like to have a different colored one for the center just to get started. And then you can select a different color to make your other sticky notes. Okay, so and this is if you had that perfect number of 8 people. Okay, all right. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and select the text box, and you can stamp it anywhere. So if I had Jane over here, then oops, am I in all caps? Here we go. Jane. As soon as I click off of it, now you can't click back on it, or it's just going to add another text box. So what you do is you click your select button, and now I can go select Jane's name, and then I'm going to put Jane where I would like her to be on the board. Okay. And so then I go back and I hit another text box, and then I put in Sue's name and click off, and then click select, and then I could move her. So now once you get everyone's names built out in here, then your participants, if I have their annotations enabled, then they can do what I'm doing, where they can hit the select box, and then they can go select their own name, and then they can move it to a different location. Okay, so then if everybody's responsible for their own, then it makes it a little bit more easier for them to move forward, move backward, and then also to start over. Tell everyone, I'm like, all right, everyone, go pick up your name and go put it back into the starting box, right? So it probably only took me about 30 seconds or so to build out the board, but maybe a little bit longer than that. And I practiced this quite a bit. I actually only built this slide deck out 2 days ago, so I've really gotten more proficient in it in the last couple of days. But just so you know, that it shows you the possibilities of what you can do with this. So, and then you can even move these if you want to, but I don't want to right now. I just want to move the names and things like that. So that's what's possible, just so you know. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get out of that function, and then we're going to move into our next activity so we can keep motoring through, because it's already, it's going so fast already. All right, so let's move into our next activity, which is the word circle puzzles. So word circle puzzles, this activity here, the basic idea of this is you're going to take a predetermined words, a group of predetermined words, and connect them together where they end up as a circle. And each word is appropriately connected to the word before it and the word after it. Okay. So so compound words, 2-word phrases, 2 common words that make up 1 word, things like that. And I'll show you some examples here as well. There's also some great downloadable word circle puzzles already pre-built, ready for you at our dear friend Chris Cavert's website at fundoing.com, and we'll put links to his blog in the chat box as well. All right, so so again, one way that I do this is I use my share function, and I've got the word circle puzzles right here to where I can move them around on my desk, and I can show people that way. However, I figured out a couple ways to do it online as well. So there's this great website called flippity.net, and it is a member of the Google family. But this is where you can create your own word circles, and you can create a custom link that goes to your own word circle puzzles. And so what I do is I put the link to their unique puzzles I want them to work on in the breakout room or in my chat box, have everyone cut and paste the link, and then I send them into breakout rooms to solve the puzzles. And so what you do then is you have one person in the breakout room share their screen, and then they'll be the one moving all the words around, but then the other people can say, oh, put this word next to that word and things like that. So here's one that I created in Flippity already. So it's got 3 different word circle puzzles to it already. And so I distinguish which words are supposed to go together in the by different colors. Okay, so when they first get to the word circle puzzle page, then all the words are going to be together, kind of all randomly placed at the bottom of the screen. And so then when I tell them, is like, all right, drag all those same colored words into the same little section, and then you can start working on them from there. So and then whoever is sharing their screen will be able to manipulate and move the different words around, and then eventually they figure out the solution. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go show you what it looks like in real time. Okay, so here is what it looks like in Flippity. So what I would do is I would have everybody first sort all of the right colors together, because all those words go together in the same word circle, okay? And so first there's just a little bit of time in sorting first. And then after they get them all sorted, then they can start working on the puzzles together. So like over here, we got team, game, game, day, day, dream, and dream team. So that's what makes a word circle. And what completes the puzzle is that the word, so game has to go with the word team, the word right before it, as well as the word right after it. So team, game, game, day, day, dream, dream team. Okay, so over here you might have like front end might work, and let's see here, note, let's see here, I must have another book down here, there we go, notebook, let's see here, book, store, work, week, yard, none of those work, right? So clearly I don't have everything in the right order, so I would have to figure out, all right, where's my mistake? And then I've got to figure out how to get them into the right order. So that's where the other groups are like, hey, put the word end next to the word, maybe it's end, maybe it's store front or something like that. Maybe it's front yard instead of front end, you know, or something like that. So that way, then that's how they that's how they figure out the word circle puzzle. And there are lots and lots of word circle puzzles out there. I'm going to go ahead and go back into my slide deck now. There are lots and lots of word circle puzzles out there. Again, Chris Cavert has, he's created many, many word circles. I've got a bunch as well. It's a kind of a fun one to try to figure out if you can make your own as well. So, and again, eventually they figure out how the words go together in a circle. All right, now there's another website, mural.co is another, it's a sticky note website where you can create your own word circles on sticky notes in this site. And it basically, you do the same thing that you would do like we just did in Flippity, you could also do in Mural. So here's what it looks like in Mural, is that then once you get your templates done and you create your sticky notes, then they really do look like sticky notes, all the words and whatnot. So then you can, then again, someone would share their screen and then they could be the one that's manipulating where they go and things like that. And then the other people can just kind of be more verbal directing and whatnot. They can also use their annotation buttons and things like that. So that's what word circle puzzles in the Mural app looks like. So, and I have links to both of these in the handout, as well as Cheryl's probably putting them in the chat box right now as well. All right, so let's now dive into our next activity, which is the invisible maze. Now, this activity here, when we are live and in person with people, is this big fun tarp that has a grid on it. And so in the virtual world, the way you tweak that is you just provide a big blank grid, something like this, that would mirror what we usually do on a tarp in person. And then participants in this one, when the annotation bar is enabled, then I have them use their arrow button on this one. And then that way you have the map to share with them. And now why I use the arrow bar on this is that the arrow bar, when you click on it, it puts your name in your arrow, but the next time you click, it actually takes the arrow away from the previous spot that you placed it. Now, one thing I like about this is part of the challenge of this activity is that the entire group has to click through where the what they think the maze is, and then I have like a buzzer or some sort of something that lets them know whether they've got something correct or not. And so every single person has to click through the maze and click through that solution in the correct way to break the code or to break the maze or something like that. So, but as a facilitator, you have the map, and you're the one that gets to use so the map could look something like this. So you've got whatever the code is. And basically, when someone steps onto the grid, then that's either if it's correct, they don't hear a noise. If it's incorrect, you beep them with a game buzzer or a bike horn or something like that, if it's incorrect. And if it's correct, then you don't make a noise. And then they basically have to figure out how to walk through or click through the maze to break the code and get all the way out. And then each person has to successfully get through the map and get through the maze. So it can be challenging when you're in person. So again, it's also challenging when you are doing it in a virtual space as well. All right, the county fair. This is one that I hadn't played before up until this last week. And so Jim Kane with Teamwork and Teamplay, he's one of my co-authors on A Teachable Moment, that first book that we wrote on processing and debriefing activities. And this one here is in his recent book, one of his recent books. Let's see here, it's on index card. It's team building activities with index cards. So this one here is it's a good brain teaser problem solving activity that can be done remotely or virtually. And so there are 13 different clues provided to see if the group can figure out the mystery from there. So, so this one here, you begin by emailing or texting or sharing each of the clues to a different member of your team. And then by using either audio or video conferencing like this, or WeChat, or it could be Skype, FaceTime, whatever. And then the group has to get together and work together to solve the mystery. So the mystery is around the county fair, and you have to try to figure out who won what place in the county fair pie baking contest. Okay, so here's all your different clues. Clues number 1 through 4, and then here's 5 through 8, and these are all in your handout. 9 through 12, and then the final clue then here on the last page here. So what happens then is the group then gets together. They each have a small piece of the puzzle, and they've got to figure out who won the pie baking contest and in what order, basically what medals or ribbons they got. Okay. So now this is one thing that you can do. You don't have to do this. It depends on how nice you want to be as a facilitator. But you could give them a prompter card, something like this. You've got all the names of the people on the one side, and you've got all the different pies on the across the top. So the answer is actually very Sudoku-like, if you will, because based on the different clues that they're given, they know a little piece of information here and there, and then they've got to figure out through trial and error whose pie is first, second, third through sixth. Okay, so and here is the solution. So this is one that you wrote out on a blank index card without giving them a guide. They just kind of came up with it this way. So, so this one can be fun to, again, send them into breakout rooms. They've got to figure out, everyone has to share their little piece of the puzzle and try to figure out how to, what order who won the pie baking contest and in what order they all are in. All right, so another really amazingly fun game that you can do in a virtual space is the game of Simon Says. Now, this is the game of Simon Says, though, with new rules. So my dear friend Scott Gerst, who's actually a rocket scientist, he came up with a couple of rule tweaks to the traditional game of Simon Says that turned it from an elimination game into a teaching tool. Now, for me, when I played the game of Simon Says when I was a kid, I was always the kid that got out first because I'm a very visual learner. And anytime that I would start to play the game, I was always out first because I would do what Simon did rather than waiting to see what Simon said, right? So now that I'm a grown up and I get paid to play games for a living, I actually hated Simon Says when I was a kid because I always got eliminated first. And of course, as soon as you make a mistake, you're out, and then the walk of shame starts, right? And then you have to leave the game, right? So, but now with these little rule tweaks, it actually changes to where if you make a mistake, you get the opportunity to learn from it and then try not to make it again. So, and I've tested it out in this virtual space and it works really well. Given our time frame, we don't have time to play the full game here in our hour-long time format that we have right here. But I have 2 really awesome videos on our YouTube channel. So Training Wheels, we have our own YouTube channel where we post different activity ideas and game instructions and things like that. So you can feel free. Cheryl will post links to both of the, so there's one in there where it's Scott and I both teaching you how to do Simon Says. And then there's another video of me leading it with a really large group. So, and it's this actually one that's on the screen here. It is this group here. I did a keynote for a group one time. And so this is one that you can do with a really small group. You can also do it with a really large group. I think the largest group that I've facilitated with is close to 6,000 people. So, and it is awesome. And I am so indebted to Scott for coming up with these new rule tweaks. So the rule tweaks are this, is you invite everyone to stand up and, and get about this much space between them and the person next to them. And first, I usually ask, is there anybody that doesn't understand the basic rules to the old version of Simon Says? And I always go over them anyway, because no one wants to be the one person that raises their hand and be like, I don't know how to play, right? So I always go over them anyway. But I sometimes will ask the question anyway, just to see if there's anybody in the audience. So, but basically, in the old version of Simon Says, Simon would give some commands, but you didn't do any of those commands until they started unless the command was started with the words Simon Says. So if I said right hand up, you wouldn't do that. You'd wait until you heard me say Simon Says right hand up, and then you would raise your hand. And in the old version, if you raised your hand when you didn't say Simon Says, you were out, right? So the new version, the two little new rule tweaks are this, is that if you make a mistake in this version of Simon Says, instead of getting out, nobody gets eliminated, everybody stays in. But what you're gonna do is just give yourself a point. So for every mistake you make, you just give yourself another point. And so you'll keep track of your own points in your own mind. Nobody really cares how many points you get. Ideally, you would try to have as few points possible, because that meant that you made the fewest amount of mistakes. But I promise you there will be somebody in your audience that will get like 17 points, right? Because it's hard. It really is. It's a hard game. So it doesn't sound like it's hard until you go to play it. And then you're like, oh, this game is actually way harder than I thought it would be. Because especially when you get to stay in, you actually get to see how many mistakes you make. Whereas in the old version, as soon as you're out, usually by the end of that game in the old version, with everybody eliminated off to the side, you had like 3 really invested people and like 20 behavior problems off to the side. Because once people are eliminated, they are no longer invested in what you're doing. Right? So, so you can have people stand up, you can have people sit down. In the virtual format, you can actually just have everyone stay seated if you want to. You don't have to stand up at all. So it's, you know, you have options of how you have people participate in the game. So, so that's one of the new rules, is that instead of getting out, you just give yourself a point. And I always tell them also that flinching totally counts as a point. Okay. So if you say left hand up and you totally do that, number, something like that, flinching counts as a point. And again, the points don't really matter. And then the second new rule is this, that in a minute, as soon as you start the game, you say, the game of Simon Says has officially begun. And the game continues until you say, the game of Simon Says is officially over. And the game plays the entire time in between those two statements. And that is a very important rule. Okay, and then after that, then I usually demonstrate what I want the group to do. And it's usually both hands up, both hands down, right hand up, right hand down, left hand up, left hand down. And then I throw in this one other thing that I learned from Scott called clapping position. And clapping position looks something like this, you know, where you put your hands out and you're about ready to clap vigorously, okay? And I always have people make that little noise with it too, because it's really fun when everyone makes the noise together too. So, and then I usually have the group practice that one. So Simon Says, clapping position, and then everyone does it together. It's really fun. And you'll be able to see that in the video. So, and then you start the game. And I like to play it with 3 different phases, and you'll see that in the video when you go to watch it. But it's a fun one that you can use. Those YouTube videos, we put those there with the intent for you to go watch. Scott's style is very different than mine. He does different actions that I do. There's no one right or wrong way to do Simon. But so the videos are there for you to go and get some good examples and see if you can do the lead Simon Says yourself. It's really an awesome activity. All right, we're going to move into our final couple debriefing activities, and then we're going to end our time together. So we go back to, actually I'm still sharing my screen here. So now let's dive into a final debriefing activity, and then I'm going to send you into some breakout rooms so you can actually chat with one another and see what you're learning and things like that. So, so one debriefing activity that I have been playing with a little bit this last week is nature mandalas. And so this one here is one that if you're working with recurring teams, or having a recurring meeting to where people, the same people are coming back to the same meeting, invite them, if of course you don't have extreme stay-at-home orders. So don't ask people to break the law and break rules. So don't do that. But if you are still able to go out and into nature and things like that, then invite them to create some sort of nature mandala of some sort of sculpture or something using all the natural elements that they find. It could be rocks or sticks or pine needles or sand or whatever it is that you can find. Have them take a photo of it and text it to you. And then load it into your PowerPoint and have people then and then you can see whose was this, and have them share insights and thoughts around why they built what they built, what was going through their mind, and then you can have them invite them to leave it there so that it can become something cool that somebody else might happen upon, and it might spark some, a smile or something in them as well. So kind of one of those little ways where you can pass on some good thoughts, some good feelings in your community and different things like that. These two photos here were some friends of mine posted these this week on Facebook, and I saved them both because I'm like, God, I just love that. And there's so much great research out there that shows that spending time outdoors in nature really can be so physically, emotionally, mentally beneficial. So again, make sure you're not asking people to break any stay-at-home orders or anything like that, and keep with our social distancing and things like that. But this can be a fun one to kind of play around with a little bit as well. So we also did several debriefing activities in our session last week. So if you're looking for other ways to debrief with your groups, and I do encourage you, make sure you have a little fun icebreaker and some sort of debriefing activity at the end to kind of invite people into the space and then get them to share what they're learning and how they can apply what you've taught them in your session as well. And then also Andy Goldsworthy. In doing a little search on nature mandalas, I found Andy Goldsworthy. My friend Deb Colsar told me about him, and he does some fascinating work. In fact, actually, I pulled him up. Look at all these amazing different mandalas. Some of them are his, some of them are other people's, but he spends his life work just creating all of these amazing different nature sculptures using patterns and rocks and leaves and different things like that. So with a little quick Google search, you can find, there he is right there. You can find all kinds of really cool things out there. All right, so so what I want to do next is just thank you for coming. And also, if you would like, that's the end of our session today. And if you have means and would like to, I've put a significant amount of time and money invested into putting these webinars and handouts together for you all. If you have it, there's zero expectations to donate, but if you want to, feel free to donate to my virtual tip jar if you want. I also highly recommend you sign up for my free e-newsletter. Comes out every Wednesday. It now goes out to over 20,000 people in over 100 countries around the world. Visit our online store. We are still open right now because we operate the Training Wheels warehouse on our property. So the Big Wheel here, because I'm still at work technically, I'm still shipping orders out. So if you want to put me to work and you've got some budget dollars you want to spend, or if you saw some cool things here that you want to pick up to have in your own bag of tricks, we would love for you to support small business and give back. We also have an online course that teaches more experiential facilitation skills. And I designed this course around what I wish existed when I was a facilitator first getting started. So, it's 45 essential skills that I think you need for experiential facilitation, and then I teach them all through an experiential game. So not only are you learning those 45 skills, but you're also learning 45 games that you can put into your facilitator bag of tricks. So anyway, so check it out. There's a link to it in the chat box. I will also, at the end of this session, we did record it. All the links that we put in the chat box will also be included in your handout. I'll send you a quick links document as well. So look for an email from me a little bit later today that has the recording as well as all the links for the handouts and different things like that. So I hope you had a good time today, learned some new activities, see what is possible that you can do, get a few more activities. I'm going to still keep creating new ones. I don't have a time and date in mind yet for my next workshop, just because they take a long time to put together and I need a little bit more time for some research. So probably in about 2 weeks from time, I'll probably be hosting another one. But in the meantime, you've got some more material for you to go and test out and try out with your facilitator or with your teams and all the people that you're leading out there in this virtual space. And so I'm looking forward to connecting with more of you in this virtual time right now. Please feel free to drop me an email or visit me on Facebook. You could like our Facebook page or anything like that as well. And I'm so thankful for this community and everybody that's so willing to share during this time period when we're all rapidly trying to figure out how do we do this in this virtual space, because it's so new for so many of us. So So thanks again for playing today. If you want to stick around for a few minutes afterwards, then you can, I'll let you unmute yourself and you can ask me questions live if you want to. I can also send people into breakout rooms so that way if you want to debrief with other facilitators, you can debrief with them as well. And then if you want me to even demonstrate some of the Zoom controls from the facilitator point of view, I'm happy to stay on for about 10 minutes or so and share those with you as well. So thanks for playing, everybody. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and stay virtually connected. Bye.